channel after news channel after news channel. Ever wonder why they report the same news? This is Wake Up America.
Brought to you by Citizen Stringer.
The media has become absolute lunacy. What makes us different? We just tell the truth. Daily headlines, politics, social issues, focusing on headlines that the mainstream media ignores. Conservative to the core and honest, sometimes to a fault. Unapologetically American. Welcome to Wake Up America with your host, Stephen Oatley.
Hello. How you guys doing? We're waiting for Joe Biden. He's likely going to be late, as always. He's going to give a speech where he's not going to answer any questions. He's going to lie to the American public, and we're all supposed to sit here and take it because, well, you know, that's what people do now. You just sit around and do whatever. I don't know. We just sit around. So Joe Biden is supposedly going to take I almost said take the stand. Hopefully that'll happen someday in the future. But he's going to be coming out and speaking at some point today. Camera just lost it. Oh, that light's not on. So whatever. You guys have to deal with it. But yeah, he's going to come in today and he's going to talk about how his priority is, you know, saving Americans, and that he's going to clear up everything that has previously been unsaid. Here's my forecast, and maybe we should just take a poll, you know, or maybe we should do a raffle or something, because he's going to say that Americans are, you know, saving the Americans are over there, his priority, that they're not going to leave until the last Americans are out, that they're not charging Americans, even though all these same things that we already know are completely and utterly bullshit, false, excuse my language. Wow, that was quick. I started swearing right away. But then again, I mean, what can you do? When we've been covering this the entirety of the week, finding out last night that the State Department was charging up to $2,000 to Americans who are trying to get out of Afghanistan. Now, we learned this morning that they're not even flying anybody right now. They haven't done any flights in 8 hours, and now they're not bringing anybody to the United States. I don't. It's so bad. No matter how you look at what's going on in this country right now, from everywhere, like a big picture looking down at this country and the world, man, we look weak. We do. There's no other. You can't even question it. We look weak as hell right now. I mean, they said that today. Who was it? Was it the UK? Somebody said it today. Even NATO was like, well, you know, we didn't really know this was going to happen. Like, and everyone's turning. My guess is this will result in the impeachment or 25th Amendment of Joe Biden. That's my belief. Because the way media is going after him consistently too, the way the left media has completely turned and did a 360 on him. That's my prediction, is that he's going to be impeached. But then we're all really in for it, because if you think Biden is, you know, bad, I mean, here's the thing about Joe Biden. Yeah, he may suck, you know, at doing his job, and he may not really do his job, but at least he forgets half of the stuff that the progressive left is trying to push towards him. And I mean that. You know, he's not all there. We already, you know, we've been covering him now for, you know, 9 months. He's not, or 7 months. He's not all there. His faculties aren't all there. If we put in Kamala Harris as vice president, or as president, if she takes over, which she would, if he leaves before his term's done, I don't know how much worse they could make this country. You know, I really don't. And the fact that she's completely absent and isn't commenting on anything now and isn't speaking about anything is just mind-boggling. Hold on one second. Let me turn on this light. If you noticed, it was causing my my cameras to have to autofocus because it was too dark in here. So now I have lights on and it's daytime. But it's daytime and I can't mow my lawn. And every single time I try to mow my lawn, it starts downpouring. So I'm just having a wonderful day. And today my wife is getting the second shot. And I'll be honest, you want to know something a little personal? I tried to start a fight last night with her in order to get her not to take the shot. And I'll tell you, it scares the shit out of me because the complications that everybody has with the shots are on the second shot. So she's getting it tonight at 6:00. And I already tried. I did my due diligence. I tried to talk her out of it. And I didn't succeed so far. Who knows? Maybe she'll wake up. But so I'll be honest, it scares me a little bit. I've been playing the guitar that you see in the back, making songs up about Joe Biden, none of which I could play here because I'm in that kind of mood. That's a new guitar. They bought it at a yard sale because the other one I broke, which is over there. But man, I don't know. I'm in such a weird mood. We're not going to learn anything new today. I can almost guarantee it, unless we learn something. I don't know. I mean, he says that he didn't see it. We saw the ABC interview. I saw one report that they took out 900 words in the actual transcript of his ABC interview with George Stephanopoulos. It's crazy. And you know what? This weekend's going to be a crazy weekend too. Because if my wife is sick, then I got to take the dogs to the vet so they can get their nails cut. And I don't want them in my truck because they'll tear up my seats and blah, blah, blah. And it's a big mess. And then Portland is going to completely explode. If you guys remember, anyone who's been watching my show for a long time, last year we covered the Portland where Antifa and Patriots all mixed up and ended up getting in fights and all that stuff, and the police were there. Well, they're doing that again tomorrow, where there's a ton of Patriot rallies going on, and Antifa has already publicly said they're going to try to stop those rallies because, they believe anyone who is an Antifa is a fascist and is a white supremacist and all the same, talking points that they always make. The problem and the thing that's different is, one, Ted Wheeler said he's going to be out there, protesting against racism and all this stuff, which I think is amazing because he's not liked by anybody. He's not liked by Antifa, and he's certainly not liked by the Patriots in that town because he lets Antifa do whatever they want. But he's apparently going to go out there, and then Chief Chuck Lovell, the chief of the Portland Police Department, said there's not going to be a police presence, unlike last year where they stopped the fight from happening. This year there's not going to be a police presence. He came out and said that the police will not be there. So so they publicly asked everyone just to be peaceful and not fight each other. It's going to be such a shit show tomorrow. And it's almost like the police have made a decision not to go out there. So maybe we can get some new headlines because it's going to, all hell is going to break loose in Portland, Oregon tomorrow. Maybe that's a thing because it would be national news if two groups started fighting, hand in fist in the middle of the streets. I talked to Quincy earlier. He said it's got a whole different feel on what's going on out there, and the whole city. And I mean, there's some lame press conference going on where people are trying to denounce all the white supremacists that are coming to their town. Because again, it's very important to remember that to the people that are there, everyone is a white supremacist unless you're Antifa. So it's very odd. It's very odd. This weekend, and then of course Donald Trump is going to be speaking in Alabama around 7:00 at a rally. So obviously we're going to cover that one live as well. We're not going though because Save America or whatever, they never approve our press credentials, and we're not going to go and just hang out in the parking lot. So if anyone has any connections there to actually get them to approve our press credentials, that would be awesome. So we could actually go and cover these events, because unlike most of the other media outlets, we're going to actually report the honest truth about what's going on. And for some reason, we just have a hard time getting press credentials for that particular event, not for anything else, just the Trump events. So that's going to be at 7:00 tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm pretty much going to be live. I'm depending on what happens in Portland and when it happens. I don't have a time frame on when it's supposed to, when these rallies are supposed to start. Apparently, there's 3 separate pro-America. Let's just call them that. Let's not even call them Patriot rallies. Pro-American rallies that are supposedly taking place over the weekend. And I know there's a bunch of people that are flying in. Other people already told me they're flying in. So we'll cover those as soon as some live feeds start popping up. and see what's going on over there. And then obviously we'll cover the Trump rally. I think Donald Trump is scheduled to take the stage at 7 p.m. So we'll be live for that. And because of, the whole course of action for tomorrow, I'm probably not going to do a live feed tonight and just relax. But still waiting for Joe Biden. Of course, he can't start anything on time ever. It's 1:11 right now. He was supposed to start at 1 o'clock. We shouldn't be surprised. We shouldn't be surprised. Someone said the worst president of all time, his choice of a low-performing also ran as VP. Incredibly bad cabinet choices. It converted woke military chain of command. What could go wrong? Well, pretty much everything. Pretty much everything. I mean, if you think about it, where is Kamala Harris? The only time we've seen her is in a photo that appeared to be staged when she had her face down like this. That's it. She hasn't made any public statements. And to be honest, politicians aren't. Fox News said earlier that there was going to be a presser with members of Congress. I didn't see that presser, and Fox News didn't play it. I was listening to it pretty much all morning in hopes that I would hear some Congress people actually speaking out, about what's going on in Afghanistan. Because I'll be honest, I don't want to hear from Lindsey Graham or anybody like that, because you can go on the Fox News channels and talk all the stuff you want. But Lindsey Graham also says we have to see what kind of peace deal we can work with, or we'll give peace a shot with the Taliban. Hell no, they kill Americans. They are a terrorist organization. They need to be treated as a terrorist organization. But he says, Lindsey Graham tried to cater to the base by saying, that if a single American is left overseas, then, that would be a high crime and misdemeanor. I think a high crime and misdemeanor has already been committed. In my opinion, I think he's committed an impeachable offense. Now, hell, they tried to impeach Donald Trump on 2 fake, trumped up charges. If you can't even pretend. And it's not just the fact that what he's done in Afghanistan, it's the fact that he's not being honest, and nobody in their administration is being honest. Almost every single thing that has been released by the State Department, by the Pentagon, by Homeland Security in the past week has been fake. It's been false. Almost everything, or they're just plainly hiding information about how many Americans are getting out, what is actually going on at the airport. Yesterday, they said it was that the airport is secure and safe, and then we play the videos of people actually getting shot right outside of the airport. There's no way you could say it's safe. They say they're transporting, 5,000 people 7,000 people, that the United States Army transported 7,000 people in total in 4 or 5 days, with a bunch of the flights coming out of there. But then they say they're averaging 300 Americans per day. So what's up with the other 5,800 people? Who are the other 5,800 people? Now we learned today that they're not bringing Afghan immigrants, and I don't even know what's going on. The latest news story said they're not bringing them here anymore to the United States, whereas other news stories said they're not bringing them anywhere. They're processing them inside the airport now. Conditions, even CNN is ripping on Biden, talking about the conditions inside the airport. Because I think we wrote an article on citizenstringer.com, and I think some of the other news outlets all wrote articles as well about the conditions inside the airport, and they're not good. They're truly not. What's going on right there, across this country, or across in that airport, in that city, is not good. You got, Taliban death squads going and knocking on doors and killing journalists. They killed a journalist. I think it was a Dutch journalist that reports for a German news outlet that killed that person. They killed another journalist, the family members of that journalist, as they try to find him. They're going door to door searching for interpreters, even though the Biden administration is going to likely say that they're doing everything they can to get interpreters. The interpreters are being killed. They're being hung from, lampposts, with their dismembered and their DOD badges, burned into their chest. That's literally what's going out. Females' eyes are being gouged out, and people are facing such desperate times that they're passing their children over the barbed wire fence to American troops over there. But again, the media, or the Biden administration, says it's fully under control, which doesn't make any sense. You got British special forces on the ground, you got French special forces on the ground, and German special forces on the ground. German special forces apparently started going out last night after a German citizen was shot in Kabul. And so the German special forces started going out and getting their people as well. but the Americans we're not sending special forces out to grab even high value targets or people that have been translators for 10 years for us and know all this, pertinent special detail. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I just can't understand why it's being so mismanaged right now. It doesn't make sense. Someone said, what's up with charging American citizens $2,000 to be evacuated? Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. The State Department tried to deny that was happening, even though the State Department spokesperson earlier in the day confirmed that it was happening. And now they've made a policy where apparently, even though it was happening yesterday, it's no longer happening now because they figured out that the American public knew they were charging Americans $2,000 or more to fly home. And it's real. It's already been, it's because they issued an order on the 14th that was posted on the embassy's website. Fox News is talking about it too. Kayleigh McEnany or whatever at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, whenever she was on, she was talking about it, how she went to the U.S. Embassy Kabul's page on Facebook or their actual website, and the memo was there. Now it's gone, and they're saying they're not charging anybody. But the fact is they were, because people on the ground said they're being charged. So not only are they being charged by the Taliban, because there's reports of that where they're being told that in order to cross these checkpoints they have to pay whatever fee the Taliban imposes depending on how well-to-do the person is, besides the fact that they're getting beaten by the Taliban and whipped and hit with chains and all this crazy stuff. It's mind-boggling. So I'm personally, for me, I'm quite curious as to how Joe Biden is going to try to address this and whether he's going to take questions from the media, because that was another talking point. I wrote an article on it this morning. The White House, I forgot who it was, the White House Deputy Press Secretary, somebody for the Biden administration got on national television this morning and literally, and I don't remember the quote, but it was something like, he never shies away from answering questions. She literally said that. And Willie Geist was like, what? I can't believe he just didn't break out in laughter. Like, if I was doing an interview with this woman and she said that to me, knowing what I know about Joe Biden and the fact that he's a scumbag and doesn't answer questions from anybody, I would literally just start laughing. And I'd be like, come on. I mean, it's the most clear in I changed my title because I was going to be nice. I forgot what my title was, but it was pretty good. And I changed it because I was like, I can't write that. White House Communications Director, that's who it was. She claimed so my title originally was my White House Communications Director claims Biden never shies away from taking questions from reporters, proving that she is inevitably a clown. And then I was like, I can't do that. And then I wrote an idiot. And then I'm like, no, you know what? I'll just take that part off. But just so you guys all know, this idiot, this is, someone that works for, all of you, taxpayer funded right here. Her name is Kate Bedingfield. She made a surprising and completely false claim that President Biden never shies away from taking questions from reporters during an interview with Willie Geist Friday morning. Willie Geist asked, will President Biden, after his remarks today, take questions? He's given a couple of speeches. He did the interview with ABC News on Wednesday, but the White House press corps and the American people have a lot of direct questions for him. Will he take those? And she replied, the president never shies away from taking questions. I'll let him make the decision if he's going to take questions this afternoon. But you saw he just did a full sit-down interview on this just yesterday, so he's always willing to take questions. And I'll let him decide if he's going to do that after his remarks today, was her response. Now, this statement was false, obviously, because everybody knows he rarely, if ever, takes questions from any of these press conferences. And I use that lightly because it should be speeches or, propaganda messages, because their press conference would imply that people get to ask questions. Earlier this week, the president came back early from a vacation at Camp David, where he addressed the Afghan issue. I think that was on, Monday? And he gets up there and he makes a 10-minute speech that it was revolting and made pretty much everyone that was listening vomit a little in their mouths. And then he turned and walked away while the press corps was like, what are you doing? Like, you're not answering a single question about this. And then on Wednesday, and then he flew back to Camp David. And then he flew back because, again, America was pissed that he did it. And on Wednesday, he held another public press conference. He calls them, it delivers remarks. But that time, he neglected to mention Afghanistan even a single time in his speech, and only talked about governors that are imposing anti-mask and anti-vaccine mandates in their communities, and how he was going to go after them and threaten them, basically, but did not mention Afghanistan a single time, while at that time there was up to 40,000 Americans being trapped behind enemy lines. The press, again, as soon as he turned to walk away with his bald little head bobbing up and down as he walks, the press corps was like, and trying to yell questions, and they're just not answered. And I'm assuming that the press corps must be like completely and utterly dumbfounded at how this man is president, because just like the rest of America. But we'll never know. I mean, they could say people voted for him, but I don't know how someone in their right mind, could turn on the news right now and be proud of who they voted for. I really don't. I just don't understand it. But you know what? I'm not in charge. So it doesn't matter what I think about it. Another thing that's kind of interesting is he had plans yesterday. I believe the plan was for yesterday. He was going to take a long weekend and go to Delaware, to his hometown, because he was, quote, tired of he was worn out. It's been a really busy week for the 80-year-old man, or however the hell old he is. But something changed. He, on his schedule today, it said he was supposed to depart at 2:00 for Delaware. And so obviously the media kind of jumped on that, because we are in a crisis. I mean, any other president would call this a war. Some of the other countries are considering it a war. They're going out with their special forces and engaging and doing all the things that we should be doing to free Americans, and all of the Taliban, all of the Afghan interpreters and their families. That we have a responsibility. We promised them. America promised them safe passage to the United States, and we're not providing that. There's a video, and I wasn't going to play it till tonight, but I think I'm going to play it while we wait for Joe Biden. And I tell you what, if this doesn't just show like how dire this situation is in America right now, I don't know what else can. And I think it's important for it to play, because this is what we're dealing with in America. Listen. Wait.
Dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died, or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We've seen war. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
What happened? What happened to America? What happened? I mean, that was 2 years ago. That was someone, and I forgot his name. I had it written down. David Bellavia from New York. He got a Medal of Honor, and he gives that speech. What happened to that mentality? That was pretty much the motto of Americans 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Now we live in a world where people just... Nobody cares. We're literally leaving people behind right now. That video... Can you, I mean, that speech that you just heard, we don't have that reputation anymore. Someone just said Donald Trump's speech, or Joe Biden's speech is canceled. I'm trying to see if, that's even true. I don't see anything confirming that. He's usually just late, but I don't see anything on social media saying that is true. April, will you look and let me know? No, it said it's delayed. President removes Biden. The president will not travel to Wilmington. He's supposed to be live. It's delayed. There's no time. There's no update on when he's going. That's per CBS News, because I'm tied into their little newsletter. Sebastian Smith, who is the AFP White House correspondent, said the 1 p.m. remarks by President Biden on Afghanistan are not happening at 1. No new time. I just don't understand it. Oh my gosh. How is this man president? I mean, they literally, I don't understand it. So apparently he's not, says soon on Fox. I don't have talking points for, an hour or two. I have no idea. Someone said Biden cancel speech without, but someone else said Fox is saying it's going to be soon. I mean, this is the White House feed right here, and it's still up. They didn't cancel it. C-SPAN says live shortly. Yeah, Lindsey Graham said they need to impeach Biden if they don't get all the Americans out that help the military. It's not going to happen, though. I mean, it doesn't even matter. I don't know. I just don't understand. I don't understand. Just don't understand why we're so weak right now. And we're weak in so many different ways. You know what I mean? It's not just, look at our country too. Here's the big thing. Look at what's happened in the past 7 months from the beginning. Like, especially if you're a Democrat, just pay attention. Biden inherited a crumbled economy and a massive pandemic. That's what he inherited, and we'll give him that because the country shut down for a year. Okay, so we understand that he lies every week when he touts his job numbers. He lies about COVID. I'm not even going to go into it. Just look up the death rate for COVID. If you have any doubts about anything I'm saying, look up the death rates of COVID and then look up the death rates of the flu. And you're not going to find any flu data from last year. The last year they actually have flu data is from 2019, I believe. The 2018 to 2019 season is the last year that they actually kept any flu data. But look at that. Look at what's going on in democratic cities across. Let's not even say democratic. Just look at what's happening in cities across America. People are literally being killed daily at a rate higher than ever. Police are being shot at a rate higher than ever. Police are leaving the jobs at a rate higher than ever. It's no longer safe to be pretty much in any city in the United States, especially if it's Democratic controlled. Our mass shooting numbers are up dramatically higher than they were in the same year-to-date period on Donald Trump's first year and the same year-to-date period on Obama's first year. You have to look at what's really going on. Inflation is through the roof. Gas prices are through the roof. Our economy's not going to be, we're not going to be saved. All these jobs where everyone's getting paid all this extra premium money because employers needed to find work. This all changes in October. Mark my words. And I'm not an economist, but I know I could see what's going to end up happening is these companies aren't going to be able to make enough money, especially with the cost of everything rising. The companies are not going to make enough money to keep these employees hired. And so they're going to close. And that's what's going to happen. And then we're going to have more people on unemployment. And we've built this never ending cycle. Just look at the housing with the eviction and moratoriums and all that stuff, and the foreclosures. So nobody could be foreclosed on. Even though the Supreme Court ruled that the CDC, went way beyond their scope in issuing the initial order, the Biden administration said, screw the Supreme Court, screw everyone that paid their rent. And they had the CDC issue guidance saying anyone who's in a highly infected or a highly contagious area, whatever, where a huge population, which is 80% of the country. I believe now it's like 90% of the country. The counties are all in this significant, impact area. Now those people don't have to pay rent. Until what was it? The end of September now. And so the people that own those buildings, the businesses and the small, the mom and pop places that bought a house as a retirement, they're no longer going to be able to get that money. The government says they're going to give that money back. They're going to reimburse the landlords and tenants, which means that I am going to be paying that and you are going to be paying that. Well, which is pretty unfair, right? Because I built a company. I paid my rent the entire time of COVID, but yet I have to pay a higher tax rate because taxes are going up because they added, this huge, infrastructure deal when it does pass. They added all this other stuff to it. Our taxes are going to go up for the next couple of years. So I have to pay the taxes for people that are taking advantage of the system. Now they've raised the food stamp allowance, so people make more money now while you're on there. We have the unemployment benefits where people are making more money being unemployed than they would if they actually go to work. There's very little incentive for anybody to actually be an American anymore. I firmly believe that's what that guy was talking about with his fake bomb threat or whatever, and I still maintain that was a real bomb and they're just lying to us. But that it's a lot of what he was saying in his videos yesterday. He's like, our country has kind of gone to shit, and he wanted answers. And granted, he went about it the completely and utterly wrong way. But I want answers too. I would love for Joe Biden to actually get up here and just be honest with the American people. He can't, and maybe he's asleep or something, But someone said, I'm paying my taxes. I'm paying back, student loans. What kind of fool am I? I have no idea. I have no idea. I still had some student loans too. I stopped paying student loans. I'm not paying that. I'm not going to pay the interest on it. Everything's in forbearance right now. So it's not accruing interest or anything based on, the coronavirus pandemic. And then I'll figure out what to do. I don't owe much anymore. I think it's like 10 grand, but but I'm still going to pay taxes because I have to. That is the American thing to do, right? To pay taxes. But I don't want to pay tax. And I've always felt that way. I don't want to support the people that can't support themselves. You know what I mean? There's people that physically cannot support themselves, and there's people that make the choice not to support themselves. The people that cannot support themselves, I'll do my best always to support them, just as an American. That's my duty. But the people that could support themselves and choose not to, they shouldn't be getting any benefit whatsoever. And for some reason, America, the people in power do not feel the same way. Just doesn't make sense. Someone said no flights have taken off in Kabul in the last 8 hours. That's not true. It was no American flights have taken off for Kabul 8 hours over the night. Flights did take off. American flights did take off, but there were no flights full of immigrants. There was a flight that took off that was full of troops. But there was no flights, up until, because they shut them down, and they said they're not processing Afghanis at any other place except Kabul airport now. Something happened. I don't know what it was. Maybe my guess is that they flew a guy over to Fort Lee, and then once they got there, they realized he was Taliban or Al Qaeda or something like that, and they said, "Shit, we can't do this anymore." How many people did we release? Because that is the misconception. We just don't know what's going on. So Insider said Biden remarks speech on Afghanistan not happening now and no new time announced. That's what I read earlier. And then they said they updated and said Biden is 30 minutes late as the scheduled remarks speech on Afghanistan was set for 1. Reporters are still waiting there. I just don't understand it. Maybe he was placed under arrest, or I mean, has a doctor has anyone looked at him? Like, what rights do we have as Americans to actually judge or to actually demand that at least this guy takes a test to see if his faculties are there or something. There has to be someone. Like, and here's the thing: why aren't politicians forcing that? Like, why aren't I just don't get it. I really don't. Some reports are saying that an AFP correspondent is saying that it will not happen, but now MSNBC everyone's reporting it now that it's who knows if he's even going to deliver remarks. I don't know. I really don't know what is going on. I'm really confused as to how we look weak as shit, bro. Just as a country in general right now, when you think about it, we look weak. We look weak. You know? White House schedule just came out. That's old. I'm checking on Twitter to see if there's any updates. But it's all opinion. It's like if I was a half an hour late for a big office meeting, I can only imagine my boss would not have been thrilled. It's not like a political rally or party when you're trying to build anticipation. This is a serious presser. And again, people don't understand. Maybe they're just people that don't pay attention. They're always late. Jen Psaki is always late to her pressers. It's a thing with this White House. They're never on time for anything. You know what I mean? But the thing that's weird about it is, and here's the difference. Like if Jen Psaki schedules a press conference for 1:00, and you guys know this, the ones that watch our live feeds all the time, you know that we'll start a live coverage the second it's planned to start, and she won't come out for 55, an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half after, and finally start her press conference while all the press corps was waiting there the entire time. Usually we can find out when it's actually going to go live, because I got wise to it and I stopped doing my live stream until I actually saw the cameras turn on in the press briefing room, and that's when I would kick on the live, because I would know at that point that, hey, this is actually going to happen. Right now, they still haven't even kicked on the cameras in the press briefing room, so I have no idea if he's going to speak or. And to be honest, we're all waiting in anticipation for him letting us down even further, which is kind of a very odd thing to do, don't you think? Like to sit here and just be like, oh, we really want to hear what Joe Biden has to say, only to know that we're not going to hear what Joe Biden actually has to say because he doesn't know. And he's not going to say anything of maybe he is. Maybe right now he's just saying, okay, we'll send 100,000 troops in. I swear I'd probably lose my shit if that happens, because personally, I've already said this a million times on the show. That's what we should do. We should be sending in battalions and battalions of soldiers to go get our people. That's what we should be doing, and following through the promises that we put into place with these peace deals and everything. Everyone wants to blame Donald Trump for peace deals and all this stuff, but we hadn't had an attack in because of this peace deal in over a year until Joe Biden took office, and then they started bombing air bases and killing innocent people again, which violated the peace deal, but nobody wants to talk about that. It's just, no matter what, it's a common theme. They blame white supremacists, they blame Trump. Speaking of white supremacists, it turns out the FBI today released a report, and I forgot who reported it first, but the FBI reported that, guess what? There was no big plan on January 6th. They cleared Donald Trump and said that he didn't have a plan to have January 6th happen. They're also saying that all the Oath Keepers, which is really weird because the media has been pushing this all the time, saying that this was a big plan, it was thought through and all this, and there was all this collusion and all that stuff. And it turns out the FBI released a report saying no, they did find some scarce evidence of stuff, of people corresponding about doing stuff, but there was nothing that tied Donald Trump. There's nothing that showed that it was a wide conspiracy, which is what we've been fed for over a year. Everything is falling, or for almost a year now, everything is falling apart in terms of the left's talking points with the Capitol. And I firmly believe that's kind of why yesterday happened as well. If you get into that whole conspiracy theory thing, because they've been pushing that it's all white supremacists, Donald Trump fans, blah, 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 all the time. FBI is going to put out a report saying that there was no big plan to do what they said was happening. And then you have a Trump supporter, apparently, that, was threatening to blow up the Capitol yesterday, even though he kept saying he loves Joe Biden and loves Nancy Pelosi in the truck, which I've never heard a Trump supporter say in my life. It's just funny. But no, all the hurtful things and all the bad things that were said about Trump supporters and Republicans and everybody else, that it's going to fall on deaf ears, and it's not going to matter to anybody anymore because, well, the damage has already been done. Someone said he fell down from the central air in the hallway to the press room. That's not funny. We don't know what any of it is. Yeah, but yeah, everyone's still locked up right now. But it's crazy, man. It's just crazy. Someone asked what fire department I was with. I was up in the Northeast. up in the Northeast. I'm looking on social media to see if there's anything here at all that says it. And there's not. So I don't even know what's going on. I don't know if he's even going to hold a press conference. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't. If he just does not show up. But I know it will end up happening as soon as I end this live feed. It'll start. Someone is saying sing. No, I'm not going to sing. I sing to myself. Someone said, how do you like living in West Virginia? I wouldn't know. I don't live in West Virginia. But the CNN is still saying any minute. Yeah. I don't know. But we're just waiting. I mean, it's a Friday. Like I said, what I'll probably do for everybody is I'll probably just replay this show at 8:00 tonight and just not do a show, because tomorrow is going to be such a big day. I'll probably be live all day because of what's going to happen in Portland, and then Donald Trump again is speaking in Alabama at 7:00. Someone said, "Am I a veteran?" Absolutely not. And I don't say that to be mean or anything. No, I wasn't. I had asthma, so they wouldn't let me join. And I was, a hellraiser too. So, but all my family was, all my brothers were military, and the majority of my friends were. Martha got her mystery box and said she loves all the shirts. That's good. On Fox, it said it's 5:30. He's doing it now. That's not true, is it? How do I like living in East Virginia? Well, I don't live in East Virginia either. I live in Virginia. I like it. I mean, we live in a very conservative town. It's small. It's safe. People are saying what's happening tomorrow in Portland. So tomorrow, there's a bunch of Patriot rallies scheduled tomorrow, and Antifa is coming to protest them. And everybody's speaking out about it today. The Portland Police Department put out a press release or a news quote in one of the local news and said, listen, we want everyone to be peaceful, and we're not going to be there. We're not going to be there to break it up like we did last year. Because last year, if you remember, there was a huge fight in broad daylight with all the Patriots that were out there, and Antifa showed up and marched into them, and then they went back and forth, and there was violence and tear gas and fireworks and all that same stuff. This time, the Portland Police Department said they're not going to be there because they don't have the riot squad anymore. They all resigned. So they don't have the capability, nor do they have the staffing. They're at, 70% staffing now for that city? They don't have the capabilities nor staffing to actually do this. So they just said, fine, we're not going to be there. Ted Wheeler said he's going to go out and demonstrate with people for, against racism or something like that. But he doesn't understand that everybody hates Ted Wheeler. Literally everybody. I don't know how he wins his elections, but everybody hates him, and especially the people that he's going to be out marching with, which is, my guess is that he's doing it just because he needs a boost in national media. Because damn well, if Ted Wheeler is out there while all this goes on, every single camera will be facing him, and he'll do the same thing that he did last year in front of the Justice Center, where he watched all the Antifa, attacking the federal building and the federal officers. And then when they responded with tear gas, he turns to the cameras and said, I didn't see anything that justified this type of response, which, he lied. And I blew up when we were covering it live, and I heard him say that live. I blew up because we literally watched him for 2 hours before that, watch all the mortars being thrown at these officers, watch them throwing Molotov cocktails at the officers, and he just lied to everybody. Fox said first it was 1:30, now it's 5:30. Someone said, Steve, look at Don Jr.'s Twitter. Saturday there's a rally in Oregon for Ashley Babbitt. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. Someone said a veteran powerlifter. Yeah, but I don't know. There's too many comments. There's too many people chatting. So I don't know. Someone said, yeah, 3:00 Patriots agreed to leave, and they all got attacked when they were going back to their cars. Yeah. Yeah. Someone said, I remember that. Yeah, a lot of people were. Someone else said I'm seem tired, I'm moody. I am. I already said it. My wife's getting the second vaccine. I'll be honest, it scares the shit out of me. She's my best friend. It scares the shit out of me. I tried last night to get her not to take it. Like literally, I tried, said, mean things and everything to try to get her not to take it. And she's not going to. Someone said, read my comment, bro. Well, there I just did. But yeah, so I have that in the back of my head because she's getting it there. Can't mow my lawn. That's kind of like one of my therapy things. And this whole week I was taken off from the gym because I hurt my pectoral muscle. So I was just completely resting from the gym. So I can't get that, frustration out. And typically I like to mow the lawn, but I swear I've gotten on the zero turn twice today. And every time, as soon as I open the garage, it just starts pouring. It's like, that's just my life today. I went to the dump this morning. I've never gone to the dump, but we had a bunch of shit in the garage that I went out and, threw in the back of the truck and then went to the dump. And it was free, which is nice. But oh my God, I've never smelled anything so bad in my life. And it was like on my clothes and it was everywhere. And it looks like I may be starting to get the fake calls and all that. Someone said, did you read the fact sheet and the second shot? I read all that stuff. Someone said I got 2 and no reaction. That's good. I mean, but, I know someone else, older female that got her second shot of the Pfizer vaccine. She was sick as a dog. She's fine now, but she got her second shot and she was sick as a dog. But I don't know. It just, Someone said, I love the hi, I don't care shirt. Yeah, I can make more of those. I have 4 more of those and I'll buy more. If people actually like that shirt, I could do it. But it's one of the designs that I just bought for myself. And then I have another one. Maybe that's what I should do. Maybe I should just go print some shirts downstairs. That always makes me happy. Well, it did. But yeah. It seems like the young man's rite of passage to all garbage. It was gross. Someone said, did Biden speak yet? No, so Biden is not, I don't know. Fox is saying 5:30. April, if you want to try to confirm that for me and let me know if he's going to be live at 5:30. Someone said my sister got her first July 28th, now has COVID and never take the jab. Again, the COVID vaccine doesn't protect you from getting COVID. No, and that's a given now. Everybody should know that. And I don't really want to have a big conversation about COVID or about anything because of social media and they suck. But the vaccine doesn't protect you against COVID. It's not its intention. Its intention is to lessen the severity of the illness should you catch COVID. But the chances, it's pretty lax anyway. Someone said April needs a raise. Yeah, Richard, become a member, buy a mystery box. Maybe I should talk about that for a second. We still have some more mystery boxes on pre-sale for next month. I don't have the link up yet, but we are giving away a TV. Typically we just do a shit ton of gift cards. We did a $500 gift card, $150 gift card, and 3 $50 gift cards for the month of August. And I know who got the $150 gift card because you were nice enough to send me a message, telling me you got it, which I like, and I wanted people to do that more. But these ones we're giving away a smart TV plus a lifetime membership to Citizen Stringer and an app. So if you already have a membership, we'll cancel it and then you get a new one. But the link to that is in the video. Someone said Biden's at the podium. Is he? Oh shit, you're right. Here we go. Well, he's walking slow. Oh, Kamala Harris made an appearance. Let's listen.
I've just met with the Vice President, Secretary Blinken, Secretary Austin, the National Security Advisor Sullivan, and other members of the National Security Leadership Team, the Situation Room, to discuss our ongoing efforts to evacuate American citizens, third country civilians, Afghan allies, and vulnerable Afghans. And I want to provide the American people with a brief update on the situation in Afghanistan. Since I spoke to you on Monday, we've made significant progress. We've secured the airport, enabling flights to resume, not just military flights, but civilian charters from other countries, and the NGOs taking out civilians and vulnerable Afghanis. And now we have almost 6,000 troops on the ground, including the 82nd Airborne, providing runway security, the Army 10th Mountain Division standing guard around the airport, and the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit assisting the civilian departure. This is one of the largest, most difficult airlifts in history, and the only country in the world capable of projecting this much power on the far side of the world with this degree of precision is the United States of America. We've already evacuated more than 18,000 people since July and approximately 13,000 since our military airlift began on August the 14th. Thousands more have been evacuated on private charter flights facilitated by the U.S. government. These numbers include American citizens and permanent residents, as well as their families. It includes SIV applicants and their families, those Afghans who have worked alongside us, served alongside of us, gone into combat with us, and provided invaluable assistance to us, such as translators and interpreters. The United States stands by its commitment that we've made to these people, and it includes other vulnerable Afghans, such as women leaders and journalists. In fact, working in close coordination with the management of the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal, we have successfully evacuated all 204 of their employees in Afghanistan on U.S. military aircraft earlier this week. We've established the flow of flights, and we've increased the number of people we're moving out of the country. We paused flights in Kabul a few hours this morning to make sure we could process the arriving evacuees at their transit points. But our commander in Kabul has already given the order for outbound flights to resume. Even with the pause, we've moved out 5,700 evacuees yesterday, and we're working on a variety to verify that number of the Americans are still in country as we work on this, because don't have the exact number of people who are Americans are there, and those who may have come home to the United States. We want to get a strong number as to exactly how many people are there, how many American citizens, and where they are. Just yesterday, among the many Americans we evacuated, there were 169 Americans who we got over the wall into the airport using military assets. We're also facilitating flights for our allies and our partners, and working in close operational coordination with NATO on this evacuation. For example, we provided overwatch for the French convoy bringing hundreds of their people from the French embassy to the airport. These operations are going to continue over the coming days before we complete our drawdown. We're going to do everything that we can to provide safe evacuation for our Afghan allies, partners, and Afghans who might be targeted because of their association with the United States. But let me be clear. Any American who wants to come home, we will get you home. But make no mistake, this evacuation mission is dangerous. It involves risks to our armed forces, and it's being conducted under difficult circumstances. I cannot promise what the final outcome will be, or what it will be, that it will be without risk of loss. But as Commander-in-Chief, I can assure you that I will mobilize every resource necessary. And as an American, I offer my gratitude to the brave men and women of the U.S. Armed Forces who are carrying out this mission. They're incredible. And as we continue to work the logistics of evacuation, we're in constant contact with the Taliban, working to ensure civilians have safe passage to the airport. We are particularly focused on our engagements on making sure every American who wants to leave can get to the airport. Where we have been seeing challenges with Americans for Americans, we have thus far been able to resolve them. We've made clear to the Taliban that any attack on our forces or disruption of our operations at the airport will be met with swift and forceful response. We're also keeping a close watch on any potential terrorist threat at or around the airport, including from the ISIS affiliates in Afghanistan who were released from prison when the prisons were emptied. And because they are, by the way, and make everybody understand that the ISIS in Afghanistan have been the sworn enemy of the Taliban. I've said all along, we're going to retain a laser focus on our counterterrorism mission, working in close coordination with our allies and our partners, and all those who have an interest in ensuring stability in the region. Secretary Blinken, who's with me today, met this morning with our NATO allies in consultation about the way forward so that Afghanistan cannot be used in the future as a terrorist base to attack the United States or our allies. For 20 years, Afghanistan has been a joint effort with our NATO allies. We went in together and we're leaving together. And now we're working together to bring our people and our Afghan partners to safety. In the past few days, I've also spoken directly with the British Prime Minister, Mr. Johnson, Chancellor Merkel of Germany, and President Macron of France. We all agreed that we should convene, and we will convene, the G7 meeting next week, a group of the world's leading democracies, so that together we can coordinate our mutual approach, our united approach on Afghanistan and moving forward. We are united with our closest partners to execute the mission at hand. We've also discussed the need to work with the international community to provide humanitarian assistance such as food aid and medical care for refugees who have crossed into neighboring countries to escape the Taliban, and to bring international pressure on the Taliban with respect to the treatment of Afghan people overall, but including Afghan, particularly women and girls. The past week has been heartbreaking. We've seen gut-wrenching images of panicked people acting out of sheer desperation. You know, it's completely understandable. They're frightened, they're sad, uncertain what happens next. I don't think any one of us can see these pictures and not feel that pain on a human level. Now we have a mission to complete in Afghanistan. It's an incredibly difficult and dangerous operation for our military. We have almost 6,000 of America's finest fighting men and women at the Kabul airport. And we're putting their lives on the line, and they're doing it in a dangerous place to save other Americans, our Afghan allies, and citizens of our allies who went in with us. You know, I talk to our commanders on the ground there every single day, as I just did an hour or so ago. And I made it clear to them that we'll get them whatever they need to do the job. They're performing to the highest standard under extraordinarily difficult and dynamic circumstances. Our NATO allies are strongly standing with us, their troops keeping sentry alongside ours in Kabul, as is the case whenever I deploy our troops into harm's way. I take that responsibility seriously. I carry that burden every day, just as I did when I was vice president and my son was deployed to Iraq for a year. There'll be plenty of time to criticize and second guess when this operation is over. But now, I'm focused on getting this job done. I would ask every American to join me in praying for the women and men risking their lives on the ground in the service of our nation. As events evolve over the coming days, my team and I will continue to share the information and update the American people on exactly where things are. We'll use every resource necessary to carry out the mission at hand and bring to safety American citizens and our Afghan allies. This is our focus now. And when this is finished, we will complete our military withdrawal and finally bring to an end 20 years of American military action in Afghanistan. Thank you. May God bless you, our troops, and our diplomats, and all those serving in harm's way. And now I'll take questions. AP, Zeke Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. You vowed in your election to usher in an era where the rules can count on America to live up to its promises. You promised to lead Afghanistan, but you also promised not to help to bring out those who helped America in its war effort. We've seen these heart-wrenching images at the Kabul airport of people trying to get there, say nothing of the people who can't get to that airport. You made the commitment to get American troops out, to get American citizens out. Will you make the same commitment to those who assisted in the American war effort over the last 20 years, number one? And then number two, what is your message to the America's partners around the world who have criticized not the withdrawal, but the conduct of that withdrawal, and made them question America's credibility on the world stage.
I have seen no question of our credibility from our allies around the world. I've spoken with our NATO allies. We've spoken with NATO allies, the Secretary of State. Our National Security Advisor has been in contact with his counterparts throughout the world and our allies, as has the General, I keep calling him a General, but my Secretary of Defense. The fact of the matter is, I have not seen that. As a matter of fact, the exact opposite I've gotten. The exact opposite thing is we're acting with dispatch. We're acting, committing to what we said we would do. Look, let's put this thing in perspective here. What interest do we have in Afghanistan at this point with al-Qaeda gone? We went to Afghanistan for the express purpose of getting rid of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, as well as getting Osama bin Laden. And we did. Just imagine if that attack, if bin Laden had decided with al-Qaeda to launch an attack from Yemen, would we ever gone to Afghanistan? Would there ever be any reason we'd be in Afghanistan? Controlled by the Taliban? What is the national interest of the United States in that circumstance? We went and did the mission. You've known my position for a long, long time. It's time to end this war. The estimates of the cost of this war over the last 20 years range from a minimum of $1 trillion to a think tank at one of the universities saying $2 trillion. That's somewhere between $150 million a day and $300 million a day. The threat from terrorism has metastasized. There's a greater danger from ISIS and al-Qaeda and all these affiliates in other countries by far than there is from Afghanistan. And we're going to retain an over-the-horizon capability that if they were to come back to be able to take them out, surgically move. So this is where we should be. This is about America leading the world. And all our allies have agreed with that. And by the way, before I made this decision, I was at the G7 as well as met with our NATO partners. And I told them all, every one of them knew and agreed with the decision I made to jointly end our involvement in Afghanistan. The first part of your question was, I can't remember now.
Would you commit to the same commitment? Would you make the same commitment to bring out Afghans who assisted in the war effort?
Yes, we're making the same commitment. There's no one more important than bringing American citizens out. I acknowledge that. But they're equally important almost is all those SIVs we call them, who in fact helped us. They were translators. They went into battle with us. They were part of the operation. As well as we're also trying to get out as many NGOs, non-government organizations, women's organizations, et cetera. We're doing all we can. In the meantime, Secretary Blinken and I am going to be working with our allies to see to it that we can bring international pressure on the Taliban they're looking to gain some legitimacy. They're going to have to figure out how they're going to maintain that country. And there's going to be harsh conditions, strong conditions we're going to apply, and it will depend on whether they get help based on whether or not how and well they treat women and girls, how they treat their citizens. So this is just beginning on that score.
Stay past the 31st to make that happen, to bring all the Americans out, to bring those SIVs out?
I think we can get it done by then, but we're going to make that judgment as we go. Now, Justin Sink of Bloomberg.
What the hell? He just said he's going to leave people behind.
You just said that you would keep a laser focus on counterterrorism efforts, and that you don't see as great of a threat of terrorism from Afghanistan as other parts of the world. But if you and your administration so badly misassessed how quickly the Taliban would sweep through Afghanistan, and we no longer have an embassy there from which to run intelligence operations, how can you at all be confident of your assessment of the risk of terrorism and the ability of the U.S. to conduct over-the-horizon missions to keep it in check? Can you tell Americans that they're safe and will remain safe from terror attacks in Afghanistan?
I think you're comparing apples and oranges. One question was whether or not the Afghan forces we trained up would stay and fight in their own civil war they had going on. No one shouldn't say no one. The consensus was that it was highly unlikely that in 11 days they'd collapse and fall and the leader of Afghanistan would flee the country. That's a very different question than whether or not there is the ability to observe whether or not large groups of terrorists begin to accumulate in a particular area in Afghanistan to plot against the United States of America. That's why we retained an over-the-horizon capability to go in and do something about that if that occurs. But in the meantime, we know what's happened around the world. We know what's happening in terms of what's going on in other countries where there is a significant rise of terrorist organizations in the Middle East, in East Africa, and other places. And so the bottom line is we're dealing with those terrorist threats from other parts of the world and failed states without permanent military presence there. We have to do the same in Afghanistan.
Sir, just on that initial assessment, we learned over the last 24 hours that there was a dissent cable from the State Department.
Sure.
Saying that the Taliban would come faster through Afghanistan. Can you say why, after that cable was issued, the U.S. didn't do more to get Americans out?
All kinds of cables, all kinds of advice. If you notice, it ranged from this group saying that they didn't say it'd fall when it did fall, but saying that it would fall, to others saying it wouldn't happen for a long time and they'd be able to sustain themselves through the end of the year. I made the decision. The buck stops with me. I took the consensus opinion. The consensus opinion was that, in fact, it would not occur, if it occurred, until later in the year. So it was my decision. Now, my next is Stephanie Ramos, ABC.
Thank you, Mr. President. 2 questions for you. The military has secured the airport, as you mentioned, but will you sign off on sending U.S. troops into Kabul to evacuate Americans who haven't been able to get to the airport safely?
We have no indication that they haven't been able to get in Kabul through the airport. We've made an agreement with the Taliban thus far. They've allowed them to go through. It's in their interest for them to go through. So we know of no circumstance where American citizens are carrying an American passport are trying to get through to the airport. But we will do whatever needs to be done to see to it they get to the airport.
And one more, Mr. President. Last month, my colleague Martha Raddatz interviewed Abdul, an interpreter who was on the front lines with U.S. forces in Afghanistan. Overnight, we received a photo of Taliban militants coming to the door of his home, literally hunting him down. Thankfully, he was able to escape, but he is obviously still in mortal danger. What would be your message to Abdul, his wife, and his 3 young daughters?
We want you to be able to get to the airport. Contact us. We'll see whatever we can do to get you there. We've got to get you out. We are committed to deal with you, your wife, and your child to get all 3 of you out of Afghanistan. That's the commitment.
Thank you, sir.
Meredith Lee of PBS NewsHour.
You mentioned just now using every resource available for evacuations. Why haven't you ordered the military to expand the security perimeter around the Kabul airport? Do you have any plans to do so, given that will likely require more U.S. troops? And are you considering rescue operations to recover Americans and Afghan allies stuck behind Taliban checkpoints?
The answer is yes to the last question. We're considering every opportunity and every means by which we could get folks to the airport. That's number 1. Number 2, the reason why we have not gone out and started and set up a perimeter way outside the airport in Kabul is that it's likely to draw an awful lot of unintended consequences in terms of people who, in fact, are not part of the Taliban. We've been in constant contact with the Taliban leadership on the ground in Kabul, as well as the Taliban leadership at Dahou. And we've been coordinating what we were doing. That's why we were able, for example, how we got all of our embassy personnel out, how we got everyone out of the embassy safely. That was the distance. That's how we helped get the French out and out of their embassy. So the question remains, There will be judgments made on the ground by the military commanders at the moment, and that I cannot second guess each of those judgments to be made. But the idea of, again, let me get back to the fundamental point I made at the outset. When the decision was made by me that, and it was made some time ago, and I ran 4 presidents saying I wanted to get us out of Afghanistan. One of the things that is a reality is people now say to me and to others, and many of you say it on air, that why did we have to move because no Americans are being attacked? Why did we withdraw those, why did we agree to withdraw 2,500 troops? No Americans are being attacked. As I said before, the reason they weren't being attacked was part of an agreement that Trump had made a year earlier. We will leave by May 1st, he said, as long as there's no attack on Americans in that year period. Number one. Number two, the Taliban was taking large swaths of the countryside, north and south. None of the major areas, none of the major points of the capitals of each of these provinces. But they were all over the country. And the idea that if I had said on May the 2nd or 3rd, we are not leaving, we are staying, does anybody truly believe that I would not have had to put in significantly more American forces, send your sons, your daughters, like my son was sent to Iraq, to maybe die? And for what? For what? So the only rational thing to do, in my view, was to set up and pre-position American forces for the purpose of evacuation, and the aircraft to pre-position those ahead of time so that we would be able to begin the process of evacuation of American citizens, SIVs, and others who helped us. The last point I'll make is this. Look, if we had decided 15 years ago to leave Afghanistan, it would have been really difficult. If we decided 5 years ago, if we continued the war for another decade and tried to leave, there's no way in which you'd be able to leave Afghanistan without there being some of what you're seeing now. But what we've done so far is we've been able to get a large number of Americans out, all our personnel at the embassy out, and so on. And thank God, so far, knock on wood, we're in a different position. Scott Detrow. Scott, NPR.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to follow up on something you said a moment ago. You said that there's no circumstances where American citizens cannot get to the airport. That doesn't really square with the images we're seeing around the airport, with the reporting on the ground from our colleagues who are describing chaos and violence. Are you saying unequivocally that any American who wants to get to the airport is getting there and getting past the security barrier and to the planes where they want to go?
I thought the question was, how can they get through to the airport outside the airport? And the answer is, to the best of our knowledge, the Taliban checkpoints, they are letting through people showing American passports. Now, that's a different question.
They are not.
When they get into the rush and crowd of all the folks just outside the wall near the airport. That's why we had to, I guess, was it yesterday or the day before, we went over the wall and brought in, how many? 169 Americans. So it is a process to try to figure out how we deal with the mad rush of non-Americans, those who didn't help, those who were not on the priority list, just any Afghan to be able to get out of the country. And so my guess is that no matter what, under what circumstances there's not a whole lot of Afghanis, there's a whole lot of Afghanis that just as soon come to America, whether they're any involvement with the United States in the past at all, rather than stay under Taliban rule or or any rule. So what I was saying is that we have an agreement that they will let pass through the checkpoints that the Taliban, control and put Americans through.
But given this, given the negotiations with the Taliban, the scenes that we're seeing, can you just fully explain why the plan wasn't to go ahead with these evacuations of both Americans and allies before the drawdowns began, before Bagram was closed, looking back several months? Because whether it was now or several months from now, there seems to be a broad consensus that the Taliban would make these gains and these would be needed at some point.
Well, yeah, at some point. But the point was that although we were in contact with the Taliban and Doha for this whole period of time, at some point wasn't expected to be the total demise of the Afghan National Force, which was 300 persons. Let's assume the Afghan National Force had continued to fight and they were surrounding Kabul. Be a very different story. Very different story. But the overwhelming consensus was that they were not going to collapse. The Afghan forces, they were not going to leave. They were not going to just abandon and then put down their arms and take off. So that's what happened. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Why do you continue to trust the Taliban, Mr. President? Why do you continue to trust their pledges, Mr. President?
One more question, Mr. President, please.
I was muted. Did you literally hear that right at the end when the press was talking? They said, "Oh my God," because he left. And he stopped answering. He only answered 4 questions, and he started getting called out on the questions, and he called it and said no. All right, here's the truth, okay? I'm not gonna break it all down for you, but I'm just gonna talk a little bit. He lied to the American public. Again. I mean, how many more times? Oh my goodness. He needs to be gone. And we need someone that actually can run our country. He's afraid to answer the press because he doesn't do it. Kamala Harris was rolling her eyes as he spoke. This is insane. He lied to everybody saying that they have safe passage to the airport. We know that. Anybody who doesn't know that they do not have safe passage to the airport, watch my video from last night. I show what the conditions are exactly outside of that airport. The Taliban is running around shooting people. We already know Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, they've all had American citizens on their show that are in Afghanistan that cannot get through. They're being beaten by Taliban. Fox News had the one guy that had his phone smashed. Fox News had another person that was all bloodied up. American citizens bloodied up by barbed wire. This cannot continue. Our president is lying to us every single day. And it's not like he's bending the truth. He's straight up lying. The things that he just said there were false. Almost everything that he said there, we already know is false. They say they brought 5,400 people home yesterday, which doesn't make any sense considering they only brought 7,000 in the preceding. Yesterday was the 19th. So in 4 days, they brought 7,000 people home. Or not even people home because there was only 1,200 Americans there. They brought 7,000 people out of Afghanistan in 4 days. And then in 1 day, they do 5,700 people and then stop all the flights for 8 hours and you still got 5,700 people out. Those numbers don't add up. Do you notice how they're not saying how many Americans are actually getting out? Has anybody realized that? They are not saying how many Americans are getting out. They're not doing it. They're saying, oh, we got Washington Post, New York Times, and blah, blah, blah journalists out. They're not saying the actual numbers of Americans that are getting out of there. Because if they do that, then anyone can be like, well, there's upwards of 40,000 Americans that are in Afghanistan trapped right now behind enemy lines. And you've only saved 1,200 people. This is, and how many SIV applicants? We don't even have that number either. So how many SIV... It's so frustrating to me because at some point, Kamala Harris, she has the ultimate power right now. She could, do an Article 25, go to Nancy Pelosi, use this as evidence, and then start the impeachment proceedings. She would immediately take power. As soon as she does that, she would immediately assume the role of the president of the United States, and then she could be forceful. The French are sending in special forces to get the French out. The Germans are sending in their own special forces inside Kabul. But Americans aren't. Americans are not doing that. He talks about how we have the greatest military in the world, except we're not being allowed to use our military. He talks about this huge military presence. We are literally being laughed at. That's another thing he lied about. He said, "Oh, the nation's leaders, they're not laughing at him." 2 days ago, I just ran the headlines from from a ton of newspapers from the UK, from other places in England, from Australia. They are literally laughing at us. Trudeau said that on Tuesday or Wednesday, he hadn't even spoken to anybody in the White House. The only person he spoke to was Hillary Clinton. He's the Prime Minister of Canada. They're taking in immigrants as well. Wasn't it Boris, whatever his name is, Boris Johnson from the UK, said he called several times and Biden wouldn't take his call on Monday and Tuesday and finally only called him back at 10 o'clock on Tuesday night? He's lying to everybody. Those are facts that we already know. They're already, we know that they're false, and that's why he walked away like that. I don't understand. I don't understand why right now there's not a press conference by Republicans, by Democrats that are saying enough is enough. We got to go get our guys. They shouldn't be going on Fox News. They should hold a presser just like that and answer the questions. And every single time the press asks them a question, they should lay the blame where it stands. Because that man is hampering the recovery efforts of Americans that are over there. And it just doesn't make any sense. Yes, Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, did not speak to Joe Biden, did not speak to Kamala Harris. He spoke to Hillary Clinton. He announced that in a press conference on Tuesday, saying that is the only American that he spoke to. It doesn't make any sense. And he gets up there and lies, and there's nobody to account for it. Yeah, the media is going to jump all over it and talk about how, he's saying things that aren't true, saying it's safe outside the airport, saying people could just walk up to the gates. You cannot do that. The Taliban, this terrorist organization, is killing people. And he talks about how Al-Qaeda was released from the jail, and that's who we are fighting against. The Taliban released all the people that were in the jails, including 5,000 hardened terrorists. The Taliban was the one that did that. So let's not pretend that the Taliban killed Americans. It doesn't infuriate everybody to know that the United States right now is relying on the quote goodwill of the Taliban, people that killed Americans, people that kill, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. He said that the ISIS is the enemy of the Taliban, the sworn enemy of the Taliban. They released them from jail. Sworn enemy? What are you talking about? This and I no longer know if it's just him, like if he's just batshit crazy, or what. I really don't. I just don't know. I think he's missing, here's the thing that pisses me off the most, okay? And then I got to leave because I got to go get my kids soon. Someone said go live tonight, so my Friday has the excitement. Now, I'm probably not going to go. What I'm going to do after this is I'm going to cut this video so you have just that press conference, and I'll post just the press conference because I rambled on an hour before this. But I'm not going to go live tonight because I'm going to be working all day tomorrow doing live streams with what's going on in Portland and then the Donald Trump thing tomorrow night. Here, Biden was highly touted as like what did everyone say? Like he was a foreign policy like genius, right? That's what they said. 47 years he's been in politics, and his foreign policy game was on point. That was his running platform. That's what he said he knew. He knew it more than Trump. He knew how to deal with all these other countries. He lied clearly. He was a lackey for everybody that he's ever worked under. Everybody he's ever worked under, apparently. And in the Senate, I mean, these are just stupid voters that voted for him. I just don't understand. I don't understand what is, alternate really was just pretending to be, I don't know. I just don't. I mean, you watch that video and when you actually know what's actually going on the ground there, you know, just by watching other news outlets, just by going on Twitter just for a minute, you know that what he just lied again. And it's not like he just like bend the truth. He just flat out lied. And then he got caught. And then he ends the press conference and leaves after taking 4 questions, not one of which was Fox News or anybody that actually, you know, asked him a pressing question. I just don't get it. Biden lied, people died. I mean, unfortunately, right now, we don't know how many Americans are dead because they don't have any account. And maybe that's why they don't want to give us an account. Because if they say, yes, there's 12,000 Americans or 20,000 Americans that are in Afghanistan right now. And here's the thing. They know. That's the thing that pisses me off the most is they know because they were having Americans fill out a form online. So they know at least how many Americans filled out that form, and they're not giving out that data. Because once we realize that, once we know, okay, this many people filled out this form to be able to leave Afghanistan, and then we've only saved this amount of people, then we're going to know exactly the number that's over there. They're not telling us that because they're anticipating casualties. They're anticipating Americans die. And that's why he said it in this one. That's why in this press conference, he said it. That some bad things are going to happen. I don't understand. Someone said, I'm behind, but the NPR reporter just literally laughed at him. They all did. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And every single person that voted for that, you know, scumbag should be ashamed of themselves because you irreparably harmed America. And I mean that. I wish there was a better candidate for you. But I mean, this fault, it's not even just the fault of Biden. This is also the fault of every single person who cast a vote for him, and every single person who abstained from the vote, and every single person that just didn't listen to common sense. Because it's so much bigger than just what's going on in Afghanistan now. Although this may be the final straw for America in general. And what I mean by that is we lost all standing with all these other countries, all of our allies and everybody. It's all gone. And the second an American dies over there, and it's due, you know, and unfortunately, we're going to hear about it. I guarantee if we don't hear about it today, we're going to hear about it tomorrow, or we're going to hear about it the next day when the Taliban strings up an American or something like that. It's going to happen. And then what? This inaction is going to get people killed. It's going to get people killed. And he told people to show your American passports. Show your passports to the Taliban. People that have literally killed Americans. Says we have a deal with them. What happened? Didn't America never negotiate with terrorists? Wasn't that the deal? That Americans, and then he talks about how some people are just trying to flee there because they don't want to be under Taliban rule. We were there in that country. You know, to me, our enemy, he says that Taliban wasn't our enemy, ISIS is. To me, our enemy is anyone who takes an American life. And so I'm not military, I'm not a veteran. I have plenty of friends that are veterans, and I'll be honest, I've steered clear of talking about any of this with them because I don't want to know how they feel right now. We just put out an article about it, and I know other veterans are getting, and I get emails too from them. It's horrible. What's going on right now in this country in terms of our leadership and our overseas policies right now will get people killed, and there's going to be nothing that's actually done. Yeah, everyone said he's not going to make it for a full term. But at what cost? You know, it's mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling. Someone said they also burned most of those passports. No, what they did is the SIV applicants burned their paperwork. That's what's known too, is all these translators and everybody, once they realized that the U.S. was stiffing them and not having their back, they started destroying all the paperwork that they need to have SIV status. Even though the Taliban has all this biometric U.S. military gear that identifies them as contractors, people are going to die. People are going to die. And you know what? My belief is that every single interpreter that worked with the United States, as long as they're honorable people and there's people that go, they should be out too. And we shouldn't stop. And that's another thing he said too. He said, the one reporter said, if you can't get this all done by October 31st or August 31st, will this deadline be extended? And he said, that's something we'll have to, if you can't get everyone out by August 31st, will you extend that deadline? He said, that's something we'll have to think about when we get there. No, that's something that you say, absolutely, we'll extend that deadline. If we don't have everybody out that we need to get out, that we promised we would get out, that we have a responsibility to get out, absolutely we'll be there. And we'll be there until we get everyone gone. That is what a president would say. That is what a president would say. But whatever, whatever. So as of right now, not going to do a show tonight. The mystery box link is in the chat again if you want to buy a mystery box and win a chance at 55-inch TV. Who knows? I may end up doing one tonight, but just plan that I'm not going to be doing a show tonight because, I'm going to be live all day tomorrow. So I'm going to take the night and hang out with my family. Guys, tell your friends. I mean it. Have them watch this press conference. Have them watch yesterday's video that I did. Seriously. Because people don't know what's actually going on. And Biden can get away. And there's going to be people right now that believe everything he just said because they're brainwashed. Have them watch these videos. Share this video out. Share the YouTube video out. Share the Facebook video out. Share, the PTNN. I'll make it live there in about 20 minutes. But we gotta do better. We have to do better. Anyway. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Portland, there's a bunch of protests. Antifa is going to fight. Police are not going to show up. It's going to be violent tomorrow in Portland. We'll cover that as soon as it does go live, probably in the afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And pray for our Americans that are overseas. That's the only thing I can say.
You've been listening to Wake Up America with Stephen Oatley. Unapologetically American and unapologetically honest. Join us each night at 8 p.m. for more daily headlines, politics, and social issues, covering the headlines that mainstream media ignores. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review the show. See more on the website at citizenstringer.com. And we'll see you tomorrow on Wake Up America.